Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever it is you are in the world. Welcome to another magnificent edition of the Living World of Darkness. This evening we find one Caspian Jacobson enjoying the crisp November air of New York City. The cold front sweeping away any hint of the last hints of summer that gave a small, warm warmth to the city that, well, will likely be the last for several months. Making his way down the street towards the jazz bar that he had introduced himself at, Caspian makes his way along, cane in hand, using the stick to, well, almost in a superfluous manner, as he remembers most of the layout of this area, having walked it already once. And as he comes to the door, he makes his way in, remembering each step, each placement, the hand railing, the placement of each of the chairs, using only the tip of the cane to move his way in and around the people that were not there last time. Um, Upon getting to where the bar is, he makes his way up into a seat and collapses the cane and places it inside his jacket pocket, wearing something of a, well, an overly posh look, one might say, for this part of town. But still, all the same, he adjusts the blue-tinted sunglasses over his eyes as he orders a dry martini, and then uses the power of the blood to bring the full spectrum of his supernatural senses to bear, and just takes in the ambiance and the smells of the entire place, the smell of cheap liquor and the smell of wax on the various joints of the clarinets and things of that nature, of the band instruments.
Pretty much underneath all of these smells and that are native to the bar, as it were, cheap liquor, but also the smell of human bodies, as it were, people perspiring, perfumes mingling with hairspray, that kind of a thing, the clinking of jewelry around people's necks as they move. There is one scent that possibly seems out of place, and that is the scent of the ocean. Very salty air emanating from one side of the room.
Would you like me to roll for that out of character?
If you've got heightened senses, it's pretty obvious. Eleanor hasn't actually showered or washed in a long while, unless it's in seawater.
As he brings the martini up to his nose and he takes a scent of it and then sets it down before taking one last whiff of the air, he gets that hint of the ocean, the hint of a salty dog, as it were. And, and the scent catches him slightly off guard. It's an intriguing scent, this side of the city. His head cants to one side as he moves his foot off the bar stool, off the lower railing, and then slides down onto his feet. Picking up the martini with one hand, he very carefully makes his way towards the scent, holding out a hand in a gesture, almost as if he's just letting it pass over chairs and between people as he makes his way slowly but surely until finally he comes to where he catches this fairly out of place scent and sits down in a chair just across from the table, or not the same table, but the table adjacent to where Ellen is sitting, and sits down and lets out a slight sigh as he takes a sip off of his martini.
The roll that I did beforehand was to notice you coming in. One thing that Eleanor it does do quite a lot is she's very protective of the people that she cares about and knows. And to that end, has with Frank out of the city for a long while now, has taken to actually watching and guarding the Limey's bar, unbeknownst to him even. So she's noticed you coming in, noticed you taking a seat and actually coming closer. So the next roll that I'm going to be doing will be perception investigate. No, perception alertness, I believe, just to have a good look at you. Actually, I could use empathy, couldn't I? To just get a read on you to see whether I am looking at a vamp. What would you call it? Hello? If you're speaking, I cannot hear you. In any case, I got a 10 there. So, looking for signs of vampirism of any kind, how regular the breathing is, how pale the skin tone, that kind of thing. Don't have aura perception, but will also use sense of smell. It appears we're having trouble with this scene.
Aha! See, it wasn't just me.
No, I've been here all along. Okie dokie. Well,
Well, it was just,
um,
it was me. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I was sitting there prattling on, thinking it was you that had disconnected and trying to fill space.
sorry, I
The
didn't
last
mean
thing
to
I
bother you.
got, yeah, the last thing I got was Elena talking about, or you talking about Elena guarding the bar.
Yeah, so pretty much she has noticed you, taken notice of you, and will, at that point, that's what the role is all about. Take a, I think I rolled a intelligence investigation in order to just do a bodily read, looking for regularity of breath, skin tone, that kind of a thing. Pretty much just looking for any signs that you are a kindred. So I've left the roll up there. I'll leave up to you what you want to give me for a 9 and a 10.
I'd say a 9 works just as well as anything. I'd say that being a somewhat high humanity, well, higher than some of the kindred he's met in the past, he probably has a little bit more color to his face, but he's not necessarily breathing, perhaps only when he's taking in the scents, sort of taking in the air into his lungs and letting them rest over his palate before exhaling. And as he takes a sip off of his martini, that might be the only thing that strikes her aside from the scent coming in and the air going in and out, and drinking martini that might seem semi-human. Otherwise, he might come across as kindred-ish, maybe.
Hmm. Well, seeing as Eleanor's not seen you here before, and that you are a new arrival, well dressed, I take it. I'm going to, at this point, get up from Eleanor's little haunt. She gets up, puts her hands in the pockets, and will make her way past close enough to actually get a smell of you, and this time looking for sort of bodily odor. I'm imagining there's sort of a cologne there and the smell of fabric and fabric softener, but looking for bodily scent that you'd associate with a human. Bad breath and all the rest of it if you have it. So we'll just do the same roll again, and it looks like I'm walking right past you thinking you're human.
If you smell anything, you might smell the slight hint of possibly baby powder and tiger balm.
That scent is hard to miss. It's all you smell. Eleanor's just walking on, and she'll take a seat. It'll pretty much be one of those. I'm getting up, walking across here, and then taking a seat and watching the rest of the bar like a hawk.
As she starts to walk past him, he'll take a slight whiff, so to speak, a slight sharp inhale, and smile a bit. Isn't it a bit cold to be around the ocean this time of year?
Elena just stops and looks over her shoulder at him. Not really. I don't mind the cold.
Hmm, fair enough. Would you care to join this out of towner for a short bit?
She'll just have a look over, try and get a read on you, and this time I will do perception empathy. Because she's been burned a few times by people saying, just a friendly chat and I'll dominate you and bundle you into a freaking car. Yeah, not doing that again. So getting a read on nines and eights if you want.
Yeah, you go for sixes. He's not really trying to mask anything, so
Mm-hmm. That's full then.
might seem that he. It seems like he knows something when he's asking, like he's
Mm-hmm.
deliberately asking you, and it might be because for all you know, he could find you attractive. Could be that it's hard to tell. It's just that he seems to have, or at least he seems to think, he has the upper hand in the way he has his inference. But it seems genuinely pleasant. There doesn't seem to be any
Mm-hmm.
hidden malice, or it doesn't sound like he's trying to con her in any way.
Eleanor will just sort of rub her hands together like an afterthought, like she's meant to be cold, and you can hear the rubbing of wool against wool, and then just do the old inhale and go, do I smell that bad?
I wouldn't necessarily say you smell bad. And he holds out his hand to the chair across from him.
She'll take a seat, interested, because nobody else in the bar's commented.
But as she sits down, he just kind of has this smile as he kind of turns his squares up with her, so to speak. And from behind the lenses, it seems like he's making eye contact as best he can. He's probably gotten fairly good at that over the years, if no other reason than to make people more comfortable when talking to them. But he takes both hands and sets them on the table, one over top of the other. Like I said, not necessarily bad, but it's noticeable, at least to me.
She'll narrow her eyes and read into the "at least to me," still looking for that to everyone's human unless proven otherwise. She'll just sort of sit down, cross her hands in front of her like so, and then just start tapping her hand. So, out of town.
Yeah, I recently arrived with an old associate of mine. I say associate because I could never get a read on that girl. Sometimes things are a bit more on than they have been. Sometimes she gets flights of fancy. Which is one of the reasons I find myself out here wandering the streets of Manhattan by myself. says with almost a slight annoyance to his uh, in his voice.
Elena shrugs. Plenty of people in here lost souls. Lost something. Jazz
Lost.
draws them.
He
Something
shakes his head to one
soulful
side.
like that.
A lost soul. Wouldn't necessarily call myself lost. I mean, I knew to come here. Knew that this place had, well, it had jazz.
Why do you like jazz?
Well, since my youth, I've been around it. I've loved it. Reminds me of a time when things were a little bit more simple. Back when
Hmm.
mommy and daddy's money was freely flowing, and all I had to do was simply write them a letter every now and then, letting them know what it was I was doing with their considerable stipend.
I see. That cash ran out, has it?
Oh no, certainly not. I became independent after a while. My work ended up attracting attention of certain dealers, and I'd like to say now that I'm a fairly accomplished artist, not necessarily a starving artist as I once was before.
Hmm. It is a very romantic notion, though. Starving artist in a studio apartment surrounded by canvases and palettes.
Oh no, canvases. I'm afraid that if I were to show my ability at drawing, painting, or anything of the like, you would probably have a fairly, well, as I've been told, Jim Davis makes me look, or I make Jim Davis look like Picasso.
Eleanor's just gonna perk up at that, and I'll do another investigation perception, looking for what exactly you mean. You wanna
You
give me that?
perception, empathy.
Empathy. You want
Yeah.
empathy? I need another 2 for empathy. There you go. Either way.
I see 4 successes there.
3 nines, and I don't know if you want to count the 6.
I'll count 6. It seems like he's sort of implying that Jim Davis may not be the greatest artist, um, but leaps and bounds ahead of him as far as when it comes to doodling, drawing, or painting, or anything of that
Hmm.
sort of form of expression.
It was a figure of speech in any case.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've done any work, in all honesty.
So what do you do?
I'm a sculptor, he says, with almost kind of sits up a little bit more straight and smiles warmly.
Classic sculpture or some of those modern atrocities that are dotting the city?
Oh, it really depends on, I suppose, what the mood strikes me. I can do
Hmm.
almost real to life busts and sculptures. I did one of a friend of mine a long, long time ago that was absolutely beautiful. It captured every small detail.
Hmm.
My best work, and also the only bit of work I ever had that never made it to show.
Any reason for that?
Careless Movers?
Not buying it. There's a story there,
No, no,
if you
I'm
want to tell it.
I'm absolutely serious.
Fine, I'll believe you.
Fair enough. Everyone always seems to be in big cities like this, always seem to be so suspicious of everything that everyone says.
Sometimes you have to in order to remain in the land of the living.
I'm almost ready to say how bad could it really be, but considering you smell of ocean water and I don't seem to get a whiff of any sort of perfumes or anything of that nature, I wonder. Maybe you have had it rough.
They wouldn't let me in the door if I was that rough. Now would they?
Oh, I'm sure, judging by your voice, you're very enchanting.
Elena will actually lean closer and just try to have a peep behind the glasses. You can hear her clothes rustling and everything by my voice. And she'll do these ones in front of your face.
As
Hinting
she's,
at
I'm
just.
gonna make a quick roll to see if he can hear like the material adjusting, like she's coming out to try and
Mhm.
do that because I'm sure it's been done to him in the past.
Mhm.
Let's see here. 5 dice, difficulty 3. So 5 successes.
Mhm.
So as she goes to move her hand up, he's just going to kind of put his hand out to sort of block hers almost. Or actually, he's going to try and catch hers. Not like, snatch it out of the air, but just kind of put his hand up against hers.
Mhm. You pretty much do. She'll just be going like that, and you'll just grab her hand in front of your face.
Now that was rather rude.
Snatch the hand back. Sorry, I can't see under those glasses.
You can't. And he'll cant his head to one side. I'm curious about something.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. Don't suppose you have a problem taking them off in public, do you?
Not particularly. But I'm wondering, before I do, what exactly has your curiosity so stoked?
Nothing. Nothing particular.
Yeah, perception empathy on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Whole rack of successes. Well, no, not all successes, but 5 successes.
Okay. Shoo. Christ, what can I give you for that? Obviously she's lying. There's definitely something that she's looking for. Um, mm, 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 mm. She is thinking that you've got the old red eye condition that she's got, and that's why you can't take them off in public. So you can almost hear like a dare in her voice. But yeah, she's definitely hinting at something supernatural.
He just kind of has a smile that shows a little bit of teeth, but he doesn't flash fang or anything like that. But he's just kind of got this almost coy smile on his face. And then he'll just kind of lean forward towards Elena, almost as if presenting the glasses.
And because she's a cutesy little thing, she'll actually rummage forward a tiny bit and just pop 2 fingers on the tops of the glasses and just have a peep underneath and then put them back.
She'll notice that the irises themselves, the pupils, are sort of not looking at her directly and are actually kind of well, they look in sort of a unused manner. They seem to be focused on nothing
Mm-hmm.
and nothing at all.
Mm-hmm. And she'll kick herself for not realizing that the man came in with a cane and just go, "You're like full blind, are you? That's gotta suck."
He'll start chuckling at her. as he places a finger on the middle of the on the bridge of the glasses and slide them back up. I have to admit it's challenging at times, but suck? I wouldn't quite go that far.
Are you born blind?
And he sort of smirks again. That, my dear, you would have to give me your name. And as he looks, or not looks, but puts his hand down and sort of swashes the martini around. And enjoy another round?
I don't drink.
Fair enough. You don't mind if I do you?
If I minded people drinking around me, would I be hanging out in a jazz bar?
I don't question why people do things. Some people do very odd things.
They do.
And he'll
May I?
order another drink, have it come, or have it wait till it's come over. So the question was, what again?
Were you born blind?
Well, I could say that it was an unfortunate accident on the farm back home. Could also say that from the moment I could walk, my parents could tell that I couldn't see. Truth of the matter is I honestly don't remember.
How can you not remember?
Things from that era of my life are kind of a blur. They all kind of come together. I don't really remember ever seeing anything, but there's images, so to speak.
So do you remember shapes and colours that you associate now with touch and smell? You say I smell like the ocean. Do you remember water? Do you remember ever seeing the ocean?
He actually stops to think about that one for a moment. I sort of rubs one thumb over the other. Some of the images that come to mind are sunlight and I'm going to assume a cobblestone walkway that led up to my house.
Hmm.
I remember a sort of off-white dress that my mother wore. He actually kind of sits back for a minute and sort of exhales, as it's been the first time that he's had any reason to really think about his past in a very, very long time.
Well, that's a shame then.
I remember going through school unable to see. That much I can tell you for sure. But I suppose maybe it developed over time.
That's true. Condition of the cornea and retina do sometimes deteriorate. Into
It's immaterial, I suppose. I may do just fine.
Hmm. Okay. She sounds a lot less interested.
Fine, it was an explosion at my parents' house.
I'm not buying that one either. See, the reason I ask is because I've always wanted to meet somebody who's been blind from birth that's never experienced colours and shapes, and then I wanted to know if they dream, and if they do dream, how do they dream?
That I'm afraid I can't give you.
Do you dream? Do you still dream in colours? Like, does your... Because the eyes don't necessarily, like, they can see, but the brain translates it, so with the memory alone, you would be able to see in your dreams. Do you?
I dream in odd ways, my dear.
Don't we all?
And my dreams are usually not fun.
I had a really cool dream the other night. You want to hear it?
He sits back and crosses his arms with a smile and just
I
nods.
had a dream that I was in the forest. It was daytime, probably around midday by the shadows, and it was really, really bright and really, really gorgeous. Could smell the foliage in my dream. I know that probably sounds, well, it might not sound odd to you, but I smelled it in my dream. And I was some sort of an animal. I think I was a squirrel or maybe a raccoon. But it was really quite interesting because in my dream, I tried to walk like I normally walk, and it didn't work. I tripped over paws and tails so many times. I felt like such a derp. But then once I got the motion of it going in my dream, it was awesome. Just dream how to be able to climb trees like an animal, and then leap from branch to branch. It was really fun.
I'll roll a quick perception and empathy on that one to see if he can get how enthralled she is by this recounting this. And well, aside from the one, I have 4 successes.
Pretty enthralled, especially when she says raccoons. She's got a bit of a thing with raccoons.
Caspian just kind of smirks a bit. So you were a squirrel and then a raccoon.
I'm
That's
not sure which. All I saw was paws.
you speak about it though, it's just like it's the grandest dream I've ever had.
I like dreams like that.
So the best dreams I have is a very dear friend of mine singing.
Do you remember the melody and the
Oh, I
words?
do. Yes, I do. But I dare not utter them here and try and arrange them as she did. I'm afraid, aside from not being able to paint, I'm also extremely deficient when it comes to the ability to sing.
We all have our strengths and weaknesses.
Some of the things I can do, aside from sculpt, is I can get a base idea of what someone looks like. He holds out his hand towards her, but obviously keeps a respectable distance. By touch of the face, I can remember contours and a person's hands and their palms. I can have an idea of hairlines and stubble and the formation of ears. It's interesting, but I can almost visualize somebody's face and various points on their. He actually kind of pauses, and then, if he could blush, he would. Various contours of their body, depending on what I have access to.
Eleanor just sort of leans back in the chair away from the hands. Why do you even want to know?
Why do I even want to know what?
What I look like?
It's always fun to put a face with a voice. You have it a little bit easier. You don't have to ask permission to remember somebody and put a voice to a name, or a voice to a face, or a voice to a name for
Nope.
that matter. By the way, I'm Caspian, and he holds out a hand towards her.
Eleanor.
His hands just kind of
And
hanging there for a minute, and he's like, he finally kind of just withdraws it slowly. Right.
you don't need to know my face. You won't recognize it. Better off to remember my voice.
I can tell you I could remember the patron of this bar's face. Odd thing, when I first met her, the first thing she did was come forward and bring my hands to her face. It was, I admit it was a little awkward, such as me asking you to put my hands on your face, but all the same, she was very unique. Very unique indeed.
What was her name?
Her name was Rose, and I find that slightly ironic.
In what capacity did you meet her? Elena leans in and begins to just scrape the top of the table with her nails.
Just one more roll here.
Mm-hmm. Not using claws, just normal nails. All you can really hear is nails on the
No, it's not for that. It's
paper.
the inference when she's kind of asking in what capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 successes.
Mm-hmm. Very suspicious, very protective.
He'll take a long pause before he answers, and he'll simply begin to put 2 and 2 together, at least. And he'll simply place both hands out on the table with his palms open. Before I answer that question, would you do me a courtesy?
What do you want?
Just simply put your hands in mine. That's all I ask.
There's a long pause. If you could hear her eyebrows knit together, they do. Why would I do that?
My question is, why wouldn't you?
Because I'm from a big city. And we're suspicious like that. Maybe. Maybe once bitten, twice shy.
And he nods. It's a fair point. But if you're once bitten, twice shy, I'm going to ask you a rather simple question. How much damage do you think a blind man can really do?
I don't know enough of this world to answer that.
That's actually one of the most intelligent things I've ever heard of I think, anybody in the past 10 years.
Flattery might get you somewhere with other people. As to how much damage a blind man can do to me in a bar full of people and video cameras, all things considered. She'll just reach out the single hand. The other one stays right at her side, ready to clench if she needs to.
He places the hand on the, I'm guessing, cotton,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll, if he could keep his eyes locked with her, he would,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously that's not really possible. But he'll sort of roll the jacket back so he can actually attempt to pull the glove off of her hand so he can actually get a feel on her skin.
And she'll let it happen. Just gives her time to reach into the pocket where she keeps her knife.
And then he just simply places 2 fingers underneath her wrist.
And she'll snatch her hand back at that. What are you looking for? What are you doing?
He holds both hands up. I didn't state what I was doing. I was just simply asking if you would do me the courtesy. Miss Elena, I have one thing I'd like to point out, that if I were intent on doing you any harm, Do you think I would attempt anything in front of a countless number of people who I don't know in a bar that I've been to now twice? Considering all of my, shall we say, unique challenges?
Unique challenges aside, and Eleanor will actually take the glove off her other hand as well and bare both hands and wrists. There's a certain thing, a certain decorum when asking such a poignant question. And she'll take one of Caspian's hands and take the dominant position, as it were, with the fingers on the pulse, and then offer up the other one to hers. It's pretty much, all right, I'll give you my secret if you give me yours. Otherwise, I'm going to have to kill you in a back alley.
He'll very plainly do the same, or
Mm-hmm.
rather, allow it to happen.
Mm-hmm. And they'll pretty much just sit there feeling for each other's non-existent pulses for about 30 seconds before Eleanor lets go and just says, I think you have your answer,
Fair
and put her
enough.
gloves back on.
So, I suppose when I mention Rose's name, that hint of standoffish tone I get is protective.
What's it to you?
Well, Rose seemed like a very lovely young woman to me, and I would assume that if she has friends, and he gestures towards Elena and you, that you must be of a agreeable nature, let's say. Well, agreeable enough, anyway.
Okay, we can agree on that. You've presented yourself?
I've met with Limey, Victor, and he goes on to list the other names from that night. Handful of kindred.
I see.
But
Um,
having the ability to meet your prince seems to be a very rare privilege indeed.
he is a busy man. Mm.
I have no doubt. A city this large is. I can imagine it must be tiring. And if we're capable of headaches, I'm sure that the city would give anybody in a position of power one.
Mr. S is quite capable. He is quite the strong and decent leader. I wouldn't say that he has headaches about many things, and I don't doubt his capabilities.
I wasn't inferring such.
I'm sure you weren't. But at this point, it was me that would like to apologize. It is not my place to speak to my elders, so
You have nothing to apologize for. It's refreshing, actually. You don't know how many kindred I've met who are brash and brazen and throw caution to the wind because they have this misplaced sense of invincibility.
if there's one thing I've learned in the last 3 months, nothing is immortal, nothing is invincible.
Too true. I suppose if you were able, I would toast to that, but considering we're in mixed company, I suppose I'll have to drink for the both of us. And he'll take his glass and place it to his lips and take a very long, slow sip before taking the olive out off of the plastic sword and place it in between his teeth before chewing it.
You can almost hear Eleanor smack her lips at the wanting to be able to taste something other than blood again. But holds it together. Good enough, I suppose. And just go, well, You gonna stay? Or are you just transient like so many?
I haven't decided yet, but thus far everyone has been very cordial. Usually, even after, well, before, maybe not so much in the middle, and now. Everyone seems to be fairly friendly here, he says with a actually very lighthearted and jovial tone. And that's more than I can say for several places I've been in the past decade.
I'm wondering as to the wisdom of that, to be completely honest with you. Some people are far too friendly and cordial. There have been dark nights, darker than usual, and not just simply talking about the lack of light, if you know what I'm saying. And she'll just start tapping, almost agitated. You can hear the drumming of her fingers.
Local troubles?
If only it were that simple.
Well, the current residents, our dear Harpy, has informed me of Central Park and the Bronx. And while Central Park, I have a certain reason to believe, as well, we've all heard the stories, I'm sure. The Bronx? He shakes his head and takes a sip and then gestures with the glass still in his hand as he swallows. That is a somewhat tall tale. At least too tall for me to swallow without some substantiation.
What parts are you unclear about?
Demons? I mean, truthfully,
Truthfully.
I almost wish, and he holds the glass up as though he were looking at it. I almost wish this did something for me other than scintillated my taste buds.
I understand it can do, if you have it second hand.
True, but there's a certain, how can I put this?
It's distasteful.
Yes, I find it very distasteful to load someone up simply for the purpose of enjoying myself.
Well, on that we can agree.
But if you wouldn't mind, inform me of these darker times that you're alluding to.
How long have you been in the city?
A few weeks.
Then you'll have seen plenty on the news.
I'm afraid that I don't really keep current with the news, at least not in the past several months.
Then perhaps it's time that you ask the Harpy. He'll have more information than I do, I'm sure. And it's not polite to speak of oneself only in such illustrious company.
They'll snicker a bit. Illustrious
Some
company.
decades, you say? Some decades, you say? I know it's rude to ask, so I'll trade you one of your secrets for perhaps one of mine. Or certainly something that you don't have now. Seem fair?
He'll ponder for a moment. Three for three. He'll hold up a hand.
I don't have that many secrets.
You'd be surprised.
You see, I'm interested in history. Always have been. And botany, but that's a different thing. What era can you tell me about firsthand? Books can only tell me so much.
I can tell you what New England smelled like before the factories really polluted the air to the point where that crisp and freshness eluded us, or eludes us as it is now.
The Industrial Revolution did take away quite a lot of the green and grazelands.
It did indeed.
I suppose it would be too much to ask for you to describe me Doggerland.
I could
I'm being
describe.
silly. That's Mesolithic.
Perhaps I could tell you what Prohibition was like. And he sort of leans forward.
That'll do. Plenty
Have
of
you
records.
have you
But
ever tasted bathtub gin before? Well, you find yourself as you are now.
no.
On a night
I
of your
did.
choosing, I'll inform you about that for free.
Okay.
So, my turn?
She gestures and then realizes you can't see and just go, okay.
And he'll simply reach behind him and feel for a chair and finally bring one up to sit completely adjacent to him. And he'll
Mm-hmm.
pat the chair.
And she'll shrug, expecting for a face feel anyway, and go for a sit down.
And he'll sort of turn to her. I almost feel as though they're all going to be staring in a moment.
She'll flick you a quick warning by saying, if you remove my sunglasses, they will be, but for completely the wrong reasons.
Ah, fair enough. Might I ask you then to close your eyes?
And she does.
And he'll simply just place both hands on either side of her cheeks and just, not so much methodically, but in a rather almost practiced way. He's taking into consideration her cheekbones, the shape of the outer brim of her nose, um, sort of the form of her lips, and then finally eyebrows and oculars, right back to the ears before coming down just to the back of the neck, and then finally removing his hand. And then I will roll my perception and alertness, difficulty 6, to record that to memory.
Mm-hmm. As you get over the ears, you'll feel that they are not only pointed but also lightly tufted.
And that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah, he's gonna remember her for quite a while, or have a good sense of what she looks like. But he'll sort of smile pleasantly.
And as you get to the hairline, you'll feel the sand and salt of the ocean in there as well.
Yeah, Miss Ellen, it has been some time since you last took a bath, isn't
See what it does the trick?
it? Still not saying you smell bad. I'm just simply saying you could do with a shower, at least maybe to get the sand out. He'll
Limey
chuckle.
has Limey has staff showers. I use them sometimes when the staff have all gone. Doesn't know.
Fair enough. And he'll sit back and kind of scratch the back of his head. Well, go on then.
I might just cash the other two in later.
Oh, banking, are we?
I'm learning.
I have to say, I do think Delilah would like you.
Who's Delilah? Yeah, you can count that as my second.
Fair enough. Delilah is, I would say, my closest confidant. Someone who I've known since I was a young man.
Warm or not?
Supernova.
Hmm. Your second, then.
I was going to ask you a straight out, which I would assume would be an even trade. I'd fire one off and I'd get the same in return, but I'm going to assume with what's going on underneath that hairline of yours, you are not. Well, you're
Well,
certainly.
spit it out. Nobody's listening. Don't worry, I'm keeping an eye out.
He just kind of smirks a bit. It almost seems like a waste at this point, but I'll ask anyway. What clan?
Gangrel?
That would explain quite a bit. I thought as much, but I didn't want to assume.
No, you know what they say about assumptions.
I do. And he chuckles a bit.
But this one was quite the safe one. Hmm. You know, Caspian, I don't have time to bank things anymore. And she'll lean forward. Delilah and you, do you have any connection or sympathies to the Sabbath?
Almost as soon as she says it, he just kind of snorts. I've steered clear of them simply for the fact that I have no chance in any kind of direct confrontation with them. I can't speak for Delilah, though I would assume that,
To the best of your knowledge, then.
to the best of my knowledge, no.
And you say that you've steered clear of them simply because you could not deal with a physical frontal confrontation? Fair enough, I understand that. Were that not the case, would you be looking to bed with that side?
I would admit that I am curious about why they do what it is that they apparently do.
Curiosity is one thing. Curiosity I can excuse. But if you have no contact and no reason to have contact, then I'm at ease. Because that means that those I care about will remain safe. At least for now. And what's your third question then?
You're fairly protective, I can tell that. I can tell that you're. If I were to make a friend of you somehow, I think that I could safely assume that if things were to go bad, that someone would have my back, as it were.
That is the business of all of us in the Camarilla. If we are to remain strong, then we are to remain united. That doesn't take a toddler to discern.
So simple, yet I have seen it be elusive many times over.
Indeed, and so I strive for simplicity in all things, which is why I have very little to my name. I care more for people than possessions.
Then this is the question that I'll pose. What's your read on me, and a follow-up to that. Yes, I'm cheating. I know.
Hmm.
But what would it take to be considered among those you be holding so well? Or at least have you find someone of my company worthy of that protection?
Let me first make a sub-paragraph to that that might make you want to void and reconsider that question. You say that my words are thoughtful and wise, and that is a nice compliment, yes. I'm fresh, Caspian. I couldn't hurt a fly. The only thing I have is my brains and my suspicions. To have me at your back, simply to have a large brain strapped to it like a backpack. And brains are squishy and easily damaged.
True. But you say that you're young, you're fresh, which means you haven't had time for this system to jade you completely. Which means, to a point, I suppose, I can gather that you're probably a bit more earnest and sincere with the things that you do and say, as opposed to someone with many and many decades, even more. Plots and schemes are abounding within our kind. I'm pretty sure you figured that out.
Oh, of course. That'll also be your downfall in the end.
True. But it is our nature.
When one has a long time to plot and knows it. But the problem there is that many bank on it way too much.
True.
Schemes that take decades to come to fruit, well and good. You don't keep yourself safe for those decades. What's the point?
I suppose that is my point. I'll not lie to you and say that I don't have schemes, I don't have ambitions. I can be truthful when I'm saying that they don't include any harm to anybody in this city, at least as of yet. But there are things that you want to protect, and there are things that I want to protect. And unfortunately, my ability to protect the things that I want to is very limited.
Then perhaps the one thing that will have me at your back is the kind coincidence that we want to protect the same thing, at least for now. No offense, Caspian. I know the people of this city not as well as I'd like, but I know some, and some that have shown me great kindness. And for them I will lay down my lives. For a stranger in a bar, with kind words, and a smooth mannerism, I still might, given the right reasons. But until those reasons come clear, you'll have to look to your betters, and not to the younglings.
He'll smirk and simply take a deep breath in, unneeded as it is. I have to admit, kid, you are a refreshing sort. You haven't let it all go to your head. And he'll take one last drink to finish off the martini and then set the glass down. I don't know what the future will bring, and as he says that, he stands up and reaches into his coat pocket and pulls out the collapsible walking stick and flips it out so it snaps into place. But I do hope things go in the right direction as far as you're concerned.
They already are. Things are going as they're meant to be. It's not an innocent life that we live by any stretch of the imagination. I thought maybe I could hang on to that. Yeah, there's a little glimpse into my soul for you. And I'm starting to become very sad for it.
Innocence really doesn't have a place in our world, but we can immortalize it and simply place it on our mantelpieces and look at it and be reminded of what it was once like and try to amalgamate it as best we can with what we've got.
It's a very, very sad smile and feel that comes from Eleanor. What good is a butterfly behind glass?
He'll just sort of reach out and sort of place a curved finger underneath her chin and tilt it up slightly and then give her a pat to the head. You can still reach out and touch it.
Just make a bit of a face at the pat. Don't you start calling me pup as well, I swear to Christ. Hey.
He'll sort of refrain from turning on a heel. Yes?
Can you loan me $1?
He'll turn and sort of scoot the chair that he was sitting in out of the way and reach into his wallet and pull out a 20. And he'll start to hand it to her and sort of count down in his head to about 3 before holding it back. Promise me that you will buy some form of scented shampoo with this and use that.
No, then you can keep the 20 scented shampoo. You smell it too much. Much better I smell like the wilds. Especially in the wilds. But if you can spare $1, I could really use it because I need to go to the Queen laundry.
He sort of starts fishing through his wallet with his thumb, and if she cares to look, she'll notice that the bills are folded in a very specific way for each denomination. And he'll simply sort of frown. Huh. Well, it looks like it's your lucky day, kid. And he'll just sort of place the bill out towards her. Seems Caspian does not have change.
Keep it then. I can't pay that back.
Consider this a gift. And not in the sense that we would consider it a gift. I don't need anything in return for this.
You're not Greek, are you?
No, no, no.
Not even a little bit? Not even a little bit?
I'm going to assume no. Not the way my parents carried on, trust me.
A little giggle. Okay. When I get back on my feet, I'll repay it as much best I can. Till then, best advice I can give you, something my sire always said to me. Don't die. I'll have to find you and kill you.
Fair enough. He'll place his wallet back inside, or his billfold rather, back inside his coat pocket. Well, Elena, it's not too often I get to say this outside of out of my somewhat, how dare I say, esoteric circles. But it's been genuinely enchanting this evening.
Esoteric. Let me walk you up the stairs. Doesn't even say anything, just arms under your arm. Piqued interest.
And he'll link arms with her, somewhat with a surprised chuckle. I know you can't necessarily enjoy food, but do you enjoy the smells?
Again, it's just a bad memory now. Better not to. But what I did want to ask, when you say esoteric, and she's just pretty much almost dragging you up the stairs and away from people here. I've been hearing a lot about, and I've asked some of the. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead,
Ah,
go
to
ahead.
chill the four winds with concerns. I've even spoken to some of the people in the Bronx. Well, one about the myth of us. Do you know anything about that?
He'll start to chuckle. Oh, and then just kind of give her arm a squeeze. I think you misunderstand me when I say esoteric.
Oh, not like. Mm, sorry, I was thinking along the German meaning of the word.
Um, I was going more for esoteric in the sense that there are only so many people that really look past what they can see with their eyes when it comes to art.
Uh-huh. So you're
It might
talking
be
like
somewhat
Dan.
haughty.
So you're talking like Dan Brown, Da Vinci Code type things.
Not so much. Maybe esoteric wasn't the right word.
Oh, well, can you forget I said something then? Because yeah, and she'll take her arm out and just back away, hands in the pockets, and almost starts whistling nonchalantly.
He'll just start to actually laugh at this point. I don't know if I can forget
Nice.
necessarily that you've been to the Bronx, but I'll keep
Well,
that one between us.
not the Bronx per se, but
Bronx.
but haven't been to the Bronx. I've met them outside of it, which is kind of how I know and stuff. And yeah, it's true.
What's your interest in our origins, supposed origins at least?
Well, it's one of those things. The big question: where do we come from? Got a lot of answers so far. Mostly, it's magic. Don't ask. But by the same token, I now know that the winged ones are real. Not so much of a stretch to think that the on high is also real. And if that's the case, then the curse might be real also. But I don't know.
Then allow me to pose a question for you.
Sure.
What does it matter?
It's a very good
If,
question.
let's say that everything that has come into folklore is real, and he sort of gestures sort of grandiose with one hand as he's still kind of got one arm very sort of cradling the cane. Let's say that all of that were truly, that was the truth of our existence, let's say. And everything we've heard around a campfire or in a circle of crystal glasses filled with vintage vitae. Let's say all of that is not just not just myth. If that's true, then that means that at some point monsters will rise from the dead. If that's the case, I don't think there's much that someone like me could really do. I tend not to worry
What do
about
you
it.
mean monsters rise from the earth?
Certainly, you've been around your own kind enough to have some sort of fairy tale told to you, correct?
Of the creation of our species, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he sort of gestures almost as if he's waiting for more to come out of her lips.
So what you're saying is that every creation myth also has an apocalypse, and we also have an apocalypse myth. Of
Seems
that
to
I'm
fit.
unaware.
Seems to fit well enough, anyway.
I would have thought that that was just simply the floods, which were sent to destroy us, which I still think is a foolish thing, seeing as we don't.
Well, I can tell you that I've
So
been at the bottom of a pool before. I don't think we can drown.
I talk to dolphins. We can't drown, promise.
Everything that has a beginning has an end. That much I can tell you is a constant. I'll
Has to be
eventually,
otherwise. Go on.
I'll eventually find my end. You will too. Your sire, my Delilah. We'll all find our end at one point or another. Hopefully on our own terms. There's no reason to think that
But
we
what
don't have
else?
our own mythos as to how it's all going to end.
Hmm. Something more to look into, I suppose.
Tread carefully. That's all I can say. You start asking too many questions, people start to, well, they start to regard you in a certain way. It reminds me of being in church again.
Hmm. Yeah.
I,
Well, thank you for being
I
honest
wouldn't
with
put
me.
too much stock into our past or our future. I like living right here in the now.
Right here and now is good, but without knowing our past, then we're doomed to make the same mistakes again. The past is something to be
Perhaps.
learned from, not to be ignored. The future not yet happened, but we shape it every single evening with what we do. So all we can do is make informed and wise decisions, and for that we need to know our past.
The one thing I found about the past as far as our society goes is that it's dangerous. And sometimes plugging just a little too deep can get you in a lot more trouble than you could have ever thought. But don't listen to the musings of an old man. After all, I'm from a antiquated
Another
age.
time?
Yes, I am.
Hmm.
You're young, you're curious. I get that. Had I had the opportunity when I was as fresh as you, I probably would have been the same.
I can't help how I am. I have to
Hmm.
keep busy somehow, because the nights are long and boring otherwise. There's only so many times you can ask a raccoon what it's thinking.
He'll reach into his coat pocket and fish around for a moment before pulling out a small card. On one side, it has writing on it, and the other, as he places it in her hand, has a texture to it.
Braille, I take it?
Yes.
Hmm.
This is just simple contact. A little bit of information I had these made last week.
Hmm.
Perhaps at some point you can give me a call and I can introduce you to my other half, and we can all get to know each other a little bit better.
Sounds like a plan.
Maybe I can show you what jazz was really like.
I'm happy for any sort of historical reference, especially firsthand. Apparently, there's a guy around here that lived through the Inquisition years. That would have been fascinating. Oh, and Dr. Softly, uh, he's dead now, but apparently he knew stuff as well. There's a lot of people that have left us very violently recently. I hope that you're not one of them.
Well, the nice thing about being blind is everyone tends to look you over as not enough of a challenge, or they have more qualms about beating up on the blind guy. And he smirks almost with a. It's not quite sarcastic. He knows that it's not going to hold out always, but may have saved him a time or two. At least that's what he's hinting at. And he just kind of chuckles a bit at that.
Elena's just wordlessly taken the phone out of her pocket and typed in the number and just given it a single ring. Caspian will hear the phone on her end ring and then his corresponding the ring, so it's quite obvious that she's just given him a dummy call. There you have my number now. She'll put the phone back in her pocket and actually give the card back. I'll save it off to memory later. I go swimming with stuff in my pockets way too often, and I don't want white fuzz on my coat. Caspian, I truly hope that your wit and charm has kept you safe and will keep you safe longer. You say that people don't tend to target you because you're a blind man. I wouldn't put money on it. Remember, in a herd of wildebeest, they never go for the strongest first. They'll pick and pick at the weak and at the young. And at that, she'll actually walk off.
Caspian will sort of stand there a minute, sort of soaking it all in. The city gets more and more interesting.